I'm Darren. I'm our head of account management and customer success, should I say. And do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, I'm Elouise Inzani. I'm the talent acquisition lead at YouView. Been here now 3 years. In terms of today, just really great to have you all and hopefully can share some of my insights into how recruitment world is sort of working during these circumstances.
Yeah, great. Yeah, I think how the recruitment world is working now is probably going to be the new norm. I was chatting to a client yesterday about the current, and we'll dive a little bit further into it a little bit later, but we talk about the circumstances and how when we talk about getting back to norm, like norm is something new now, like it's a new norm. It's not the current norm.
Yeah.
So it's a new market on that side. Cool. I think we're probably about right to go. So obviously you've introduced yourself. If you want to go into a little bit further details, what would be really good to understand, I guess, for people joining now is a little bit about your background, so they can get a bit of an understanding about where you're coming from, your experiences.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've got about 12 years tech recruitment experience, worked in lots of different sectors from sort of, well, energy, oil and gas, in government, sort of public sector, and then into sort of media and broadcast. I guess my sort of background started obviously being sort of hands-on in the delivery, being a recruiter, through to sort of then actually now sort of in the management side of things and actually building a team. And it's been brilliant. I've really enjoyed obviously what I'm doing in my current role with YouView. So I've been here 3 years in total. And part of my role was to actually set up our in-house recruitment function. So that meant actually building a team around me, setting up the right capabilities and the right tools. And the other part was also our employer brand, getting our sort of name out there in the market. And it's been brilliant. I've loved my journey so far. We've had some real successes. Over the last sort of 3 years, we've recruited about 188 people into our business. And that was actually just between 2 of us. And that's been great. And I've loved that. So that's a little bit, I guess about my sort of background and where I come from.
Big shout out to Danny in the chat, if Danny's in the chat right now. And it's weird because when you say that you've been in the business 3 years, it suddenly makes me remember that I think you were very, very early into your time at YouView when myself and Mark, our CEO, had that first conversation with you. Yeah, absolutely. We were really sort of, it was kind of at a point of obviously sort of YouView were really sort of ramping up their projects, really sort of needed, tech resources. And as you say, sort of really sort of had a great conversation, obviously, with yourself and Mark. And we built a great sort of strategy around how we were going to get there and what that journey looked like, which was phenomenal. Yeah, it's been interesting over the last, because obviously we've worked alongside and spoken for 3 years now, but it's interesting to see where the business were and where the business is now, because obviously you pivoted, for anyone who doesn't know, probably about 12, 18 months ago now? Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously part of, YouView, we're not a huge company, we're sort of 200 people, but most of our business is tech. And actually we've been on a real new sort of journey in the last sort of 12, 18 months where we're moving to sort of a SaaS model, which is obviously bringing new ways of working, ensuring that we can sort of scale up our teams in the right way, making sure that we've got the right talent in our business as well. And that's a really, exciting part of the journey that we're on. And we're going to be for the next sort of 4 years in terms of what our goals are and where we need to be as a business.
Nice. I guess the elephant in the room right now is COVID-19. So it's always interesting because I've had up-team conversations, should we say, over the last 7 weeks with people about how they're coping, what they're doing to get around the situation, whether it's changing processes or changing onboarding or anything around those interesting areas. So I guess what are YouView doing at the moment? Because I know you've been quite successful during this period.
Yeah, so actually, as you say, I mean, it's really strange times and world we're living in at the moment with COVID, but actually, I think it's allowed us as a business to adapt and change our ways of actually bringing talent into the business. So, as I say, we used to think that we could never do sort of, remote working, but here we are today, and actually all of our business are working remotely, which is fantastic. And part of that also is that, yeah, we had to look at our interview processes. Obviously, you know, we're used to candidates coming into the office and meeting with the hiring managers. And I think, you know, that face-to-face is always important, but actually we've been able to bring that now through video interviewing. So we've been using Skype for Business, which has been really good. So we've also been able to sort of, I guess, put in place some technical tools because as I mentioned earlier, a lot of our business is tech. So it was about making sure that they've got the right tools to be able to assess candidates through the recruitment process. And we found it has been fantastic, and we've had such great feedback even through just sort of video interviewing. So that's really sort of helped us. And as I say, for some technical teams, we were having, you know, sort of 3-4 hour interviews. And we sort of were thinking, how was that going to work in sort of a video interview? But actually, I think we found that it has, because the video interview part is about, you know, sort of the soft skills and getting to know someone, but then actually then going on to another platform to assess technical competency also then sort of brings another dimension to it. So that's been really good. And for the non-tech side part of our business, we actually have had sort of, you know, candidates presenting to a group of stakeholders over a video interview, which again, we've had really, really good feedback. I think it's just like you say, it's become the new norm. And if you want to get, you know, talent into your business, you do need to continue. So since COVID happened, obviously we're in week 6 of lockdown. So 23rd of March, we've managed to hire 9 people so far. Nice. In that time, and just yesterday got another offer out, so that'll be 10 if they accept on Monday. But yeah, we've managed to really make some real small changes, but not stop the business from doing what they need to, and to make sure that we can achieve our goals and targets.
Amazing. I'm intending for this to be quite an interactive session. So we've had a question in the Q&A, so I'm going to throw it to you now. Do you find that candidates are happy to do phone? Sorry, apologies. Let me start again. Do you find that candidates are happy to do video interviews? We need to start hiring again, but are worried that we won't seem seem as attractive as an in-person interview.
Oh, it's a great question. But I mean, I would say from our experience, actually, video interviews, candidates are really happy. There's so much more available. Now that people are remote working, you can do a video interview in the morning, you know, in the afternoon, in the evening even. And actually, I think because of COVID-19, I know it's obviously been very tough for some industries, but actually also that candidate demand has gone up. And actually, we are seeing that we're getting a lot more candidates applying for our jobs that maybe they wouldn't necessarily. Even I've had sort of, you know, candidates approaching me on my sort of LinkedIn that maybe had been a contractor and working in that sort of TV background that actually think, I probably do need a permanent position at this time. So I would say absolutely go for it. Skype is very, very good. I think we're transferring over to Teams actually, because I believe it's sort of end of life in June. But also, you know, Slack's a really good tool as well. And I know even hackajob have got some really good platforms too that you can use.
I was going to say, don't be promoted too much. So that's a really interesting point around remote interviewing and all that kind of area. I definitely would agree with what you've said there. I think that when it all happened, a lot of companies went into a little bit of panic mode and were like, okay, does this mean we need to stop hiring totally? And what we're actually seeing is that I think last week was or it was a week before, was our biggest week in the last 18 months for number of candidates signing up. So look, it's due to a very bad situation, and you always have to be mindful of that when saying, oh, we're doing great. But at the end of the day, you need to be taking advantage of this situation because there's a lot of talent out there in the market right now. So let's make sure that we can get them into roles, and because ultimately we need to stimulate the market again. So it's great to see that YouView and other companies at the moment are doing something to stimulate the market.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is all, you know, we kind of are sort of finding our feet in this new world, as you say, but I do think it has got some real benefits and real advantages, and absolutely that's why we're trying to sort of get, you know, the message out there that, you know, we are hiring. It might be a little bit slower, but I do think, you know, people, even candidates that you're speaking to, have just got so much gratitude for the fact that you are hiring and helping them in these situations.
Yeah. And I think, like you say, candidates do have a lot more time at the moment. So take advantage of that time. Like we've just do a bit of self promotion. So we've just launched our own testing function, because we've had it on the platform for a long time. But what we haven't previously been able to do is the pair programming element. But I think that is the real pain point in the moment. That the testing element is one thing, but it's kind of starting to look at how do we replicate a face-to-face interview, which I think is the fear for a lot of companies. They think, okay, we want to continue hiring, but we don't have a way to continue our processes, which means that they don't want to take risks on the talent they bring in.
Yeah.
So there's another question in the Q&A.
Yeah.
How have hiring managers found remote interviews, and how confident are they in making offers and hires without meeting the people in person?
Yeah, really good question. And this was sort of my sort of first thoughts were actually, it's all good and well having sort of the tools in place, but actually when it comes then to making that hiring decision, are they going to feel comfortable enough? And I think it was about actually sort of, really sort of going back to basics and working with them very closely, the hiring managers, to sort of, bring them into sort of, as you say, this is the sort of the new world, and we don't know how long we've got this for. But also, if you don't bring the hire into your business, actually as a project, you're going to struggle as a business. Yeah. So, and I think the thing is with, video calls like we're doing right now, you do get that same feel. Obviously, you're not there in person, you don't shake their hand, but I think, we've managed to sort of get that working really well. And hiring managers have sort of, as you say, made decisions because they know that they need to fundamentally. Otherwise, the risk is that things get pushed back, and they don't want that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess on that point, what do you think the future of recruitment will be like? How do you think that this situation is going to change the market? Very philosophical. Yeah,
I think, like you said, I think it's opened up a lot more avenues for us to use technology more. I mean, we're so lucky in this day and age that technology, that we've got, Skype, and we've got Slack, and we've got those types of things, really, because if you think years ago, you might not have had that option, and things probably could have stood still. So I think it's about, there's lots of great platforms and tools out there. But I also think the one thing is, the human interaction and the communication with people is really important too. And I think we're going to, as a business, reflect and think, actually, we've got all of our employees, working remotely right now. So does that mean that our business goes fully remote? Or actually, does it mean that we just assess what our office looks like now and how sort of occupied it is, and maybe have sort of a traffic light system of when you have teams in? Because I do think we have to put in place social distancing measures. So that's going to be a key thing, I know, for businesses. But I think also it is going to be having that more flexible approach to remote working, that actually you don't just need to be in an office to be doing your job. So I think I think that's probably the biggest change that we're going to see, is that actually I think a lot of companies will sell that will be a real selling opportunity of, it's a fully remote working role, or you can do 2 days in the office and 3 days at home, or whatever. But that will also appeal to people that, working mums that want to return to work, and people that want that flexibility in a role. So I think it actually opens up a lot of avenues, and I think recruitment, just like I say, how we've adjusted to going to video interviews, even though we had that, we had that before sort of COVID, didn't we, really? But it's just, we haven't had to use it, so it's just almost like an extra. But I think now people will look at sort of their recruitment process, look at actually what key roles do they need in their business, and if you can be remote, then why not?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you touched on an interesting point. A lot of people don't really consider when talking about the future of tech. So I think anyone that's worked in the tech market for more than a few months understands that tech right now is a very male-orientated business unit. Every company you speak to would love to bring more women into their teams. And I know actually YouView, I didn't really think about this starting the question, but you guys are actually someone that I talk to a lot when talking about companies that have got women at that top end of the tech business. But I guess with what's changing within the market, it's going to be really interesting to see whether that means that more women can enter the market, because the more flexibility means that not only if they have kids, can they enter the market. But anyone that is starting to think, okay, I want to retrain, what can I do? Okay, tech is very office orientated at the moment. They won't be able to do that. So I think that the more we open up the market, the better.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. And part of it actually, you know, sort of, we've been sort of quite heavy, you'll know, Darren, in terms of sort of diversity and, as you say, bringing, you know, more sort of women in tech, because as you mentioned, it has been very sort of male dominant, and we really have sort of managed to sort of move the dial in a lot of our teams in YouView, which is fantastic. But a lot of it also organic, not just because we've just been sort of, we have to have women in tech. Actually, we've really broadened that too, in terms of looking at, it's not just about women, it's also about sort of different cultures. We Definitely. Do know, you know, the stats do tell us that having a diverse workforce brings more productivity. So I think, you know, it is about, I do think actually, yeah, with COVID, with the fact that if we do inspire people to work more remotely, and that actually is something as a USP, as joining YouView or any company, people will be like, yeah, that's a company I want to work for. And I do think it will bring in that diverse piece, which is really crucial for any company, really.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's again a very valid point, that when people think diversity, oftentimes they think male, female, like they're the two sectors that everyone looks at. But then there's BAME, there's like I come from a learning disabilities background myself, so like that's a area I'm really passionate about that people don't really consider a lot of the time. And it's kind of gone off the topic that I expected we wouldn't get into, but like I find that fascinating that that kind of you guys are thinking about that as well as male versus kind of female. Another question in the chat: how do you onboard and train new starters? How has that worked for your company so far?
Yeah, great question again. Loving the questions. So yeah, onboarding, obviously we did have to look into that. So the way that it's working at the moment, I mean, we've got a fantastic HR team and our office manager that is amazing, that has been, we make sure we sort of give them a sort of a 2-week lead time, so that actually we can get sort of IT laptops and equipment sorted, because some teams do require set-top boxes and network cables, and the way that we've done it is we've been obviously booking couriers to send equipment to candidates' home address, and part of that they get sort of a one-pager of how to log on and what their details are, and then they'll actually have an induction call with the IT teams to get them set up, and then they'll have an induction with HR as well. And part of their sort of first week is what we've done is we've set up Slack calls with sort of, you know, key stakeholders they need to be introduced to. And actually also, you know, we've got lots of sort of shared Slack channels where you can sort of go and welcome yourself. And also our communications manager has been doing sort of a bit of a spotlight on all our new starters, which allows them to sort of say, hey, this is me. And actually we had one from a video actually of a new starter, which was brilliant, but also we're doing it in sort of print style as well, so that people can get to know sort of new starters. But again, hasn't been a massive barrier. We have just literally adjusted how we would do things in the office to kind of, yeah, having to send it to home addresses, really.
Nice. Yeah, no, I think that what you've said there is quite interesting. That I was I did a webinar with one of my colleagues, so our head of talent, the other week, and we were talking about how this kind of is all kind of come about. And I think that the more you interact with starters at the start, and the more you plan their weeks, especially working remotely, is going to be huge, because it's very easy when you're a new starter working remotely to feel like you're not part of the team. So anything you can do around sending like material about, oh, welcome to YouView, or any, like making sure they've got their laptop, and I don't know what you guys are doing on that side, but making sure that they've got all the programs installed and all that kind of stuff. There's nothing worse than that first day, and I've done it from experience, because the first day I joined, not hackajob, but one of my other companies, I was given a laptop and it didn't work. So I panicked, and I was in that office. I imagine if you're working from home and you're expected to do onboardings and stuff like that on the first day, and your laptop doesn't work, the fear that's going to go into your mind. So as weird and as pernickety as it is, if you're going to send out new equipment, I'd always advise you test that new equipment before you send it out.
Yeah, And that's what actually our IT team have been fantastic in the fact that, as you say, they've actually had to sort of get all of the applications they required on there, test it before obviously it goes out, as you say, and then they've got sort of as you were saying, Darren, a support so they can ring someone if there is any issue or anything like that. And it normally is sort of going to them a few days before they're sort of due to start exactly. As well. So but it has been tricky. People, employees have wanted their, chairs sent to their home address because, all that sort of stuff around sort of making sure they've got the right DSE and everything set up correctly and, ensuring that. But again, we've sort of, worked with couriers and shipped that out to employees. So it's been fun and games though.
Yeah, my partner works for the police, so I've felt that need for a chair a lot of the time. I know that I've had a few Skype calls and Zoom calls where someone's been sat on a bed. I'm like, you can't cope that well. Please go get yourself a chair. Luckily, it's not any of our staff, but I was speaking to someone on a Skype call and I'm like, you can't live this way for the next 6 to 8 weeks.
No, absolutely. Exactly. All them things that like you say, again, you sort of take for granted when you're in necessarily like an office. And so all them things have got to be considered, especially considering, the amount of time we're not sure when we sort of get out of it. So all them things, just looking after yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So this kind of leads on to the next point then. So another question: How are you both finding working from home personally? I can take this one first if you like. So like I say, my girlfriend works for the police. So I live my life vicariously through her because the only places I've tended to go is luckily I live right next to the common, so I go out for a walk and a run there every day, and I actually quite enjoy going to Asda right now because it feels like I'm getting out of the house. As weird as that sounds, like it's the opportunities to get out of the house. Working wise, luckily I work in quite a supportive company, so we've got all the equipment we need. Again, I was given the opportunity to have my stuff couriered back to my house if need be, but unfortunately I live fairly central London, so there's not a lot of room for a table and a chair in my flat, but I've got a nice comfy sofa. But yeah, working from home, I think the first couple of weeks everyone will probably feel the same, where it was very tough. You were kind of getting used to that feeling of how am I going to cope with this. And I think if I was going to give any tip to pass Darren, I probably would say make sure that you are you're clocking off. Like, I think it's very easy in the current environment and working remotely to get up, sign on it at 8 o'clock in the morning because that's what time I'm eating my breakfast, and then sign back off at half eight at night and still be paying attention to emails. So that's the first bit of advice I would give anyone if they are new to remote working. Make sure that you are being respectful of work versus personal time.
Yeah, I think that's really good points you touched on. I think I'm sort of the same, really. I mean, I've sort of worked from home a couple of days a week, and sort of I've been used to that, really. But as you say, sort of going to sort of 5 days definitely feels different. And I'm a real sort of people person. That's probably why I'm in recruitment, let's be honest. So that interaction with people I do find quite hard, but I do sort of try and get that from, like you say, getting on a Slack call with my colleagues, always posting it some, funny giffies on a Monday or a Friday to get people in the sort of work mode. But I mean, I can become guilty of that. I sort of tend to log on early. I'm a bit of an early bird, but sometimes then you'll still find yourself, on 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night, just because you can really. And I think it is about, I have even started saying to myself, I need to take my lunch break, because it's so easy again just to work through the whole day and not take those breaks. So I've been actually doing sort of Joe Wicks in my lunch time now to get myself into a bit of a routine, which has been fun and games, and going for sort of walks and stuff. And actually I found for myself of an evening, sort of using the Calm app to really sort of switch off and calm, and because it is quite, it's difficult times. You've never experienced anything like this, so sometimes it is quite easy for your mind to go to other places. And I think it's about, as you were saying, Darren, being quite respectful, and actually sometimes it's okay not to feel okay, and just absolutely how you're feeling. And mental and well-being is going to be so important now, because it's how do you, we've been so used to sort of being in this lockdown with not having that interaction, that when we do go out, how is that going to going to feel, and you know, what are we going to feel like? So there's all those sort of anxieties, I think. But I just think, like, yeah, I think, you know, be kind to yourself. You know, if you're not having a great day, you know, make sure you just connect with people. And I think talking and is always a great thing, or putting on your, you know, your favorite song or something to lift your spirits. I know I'm a sort of firm believer in a bit of music, and even if you have a dance, why not? You know, you've got to, you know, do those things that make you happy and bring you up every day.
Yeah, it's weird, some of the artists I've discovered while on this period. Like, I've discovered probably 5 or 6 artists that I now know all the words to all their albums. So it's weird the habits you develop, and they I may be wrong in this timing, but I believe that I read something the other day where it said that it takes 41 days to create a habit. So from count, I think we're on 37 now. Days. So in 4 days we'll start seeing the habits we've got. And I also think it's okay. It's kind of going off recruitment topics, but I also think it's okay to not, because I think in the media right now everyone's saying I'm learning to play guitar, I'm learning an instrument or something like that. I can honestly say I've done none of that. Like, I've knuckled down on a bit of reading, I've watched a lot of movies. I think that the most important thing isn't you want to be going out and opening up your mind to stuff. But at the same time, don't feel like you need to be a sheep in terms of what's happening in the wider world.
Absolutely.
It's not going to help you much. I guess, is there any other points that you want to kind of go through, whether it's giving people advice or anything like that about what's going on in the situation?
I think the other things that we've sort of done as a company, just to say, obviously through sort of COVID, you know, we've sort of realised that sort of food banks are sort of running quite low, and so we sort of put in place YouView sort of challenge, really. We've set up a Just Giving page, and we've got a couple of the grads sort of running some challenges. So we've got a Taskmaster, which was throwing a piece of bread into the toaster with the furthest distance. Wow. So we had some YouView employees do that, which was great fun. And we had another one this week, which was defying gravity, which again were quite funny. And people are posting up their videos of how they're doing this, and we've got sort of a bonus points piece going. But just giving back to the community as well. We've managed to, I think we set our limit in terms of back to 500. I think we've raised over £1,000 now for
Amazing.
the bank, Trussell Trust, which again is great. We wanted to sort of, again, you know, as part of this, get involved in the community. So again, sort of my advice would be to people to, you know, do those sorts of things. And again, it's sort of trying to get everyone in the company involved as well.
Nice. We've actually had 3 late questions in here, so we'll go through these questions. I think we've got a couple more minutes, so we can get through these questions. Elouise, as a woman working in such a male-dominated environment, i.e. tech hiring, how do you personally find it?
I suppose because I've done it for 12 years, it's become the norm, really.
Yeah.
I think I'm the kind of character as well that I, you know, like to build relationships and find that I can do that kind of quite all different levels, really. And I think that's what it's about. I don't think it's necessarily about me being a female and them being a male, really. I think it's about bringing your expertise and skills to them and vice versa, really. So never sort of found it a challenge as such, but I just think, yeah, you just have to embrace it. But it's all about relationships and building that rapport with one another. Definitely.
Culture and team fit and social team events are important to candidates. How and what things are you doing to bring people together? So you've kind of spoken about them a little bit, but you can go into further detail.
Absolutely. And we've got at YouView, we've got a social committee, and actually Danny, recruiter, I think he's on this call.
He is.
He's part of the social committee, and they're always putting lots of different events together. So for instance, we do sort of red wine and cheese evenings, board games evenings. There's a football team if you want to play sport. There's a running club. So we sort of, again, that's one of our sort of selling points, as well as the fact that YouView, we've got such a sort of diverse set of people that there's quite a lot that you can sort of get involved in if you want to. Again, it's not sort of you have to, but there is always lots to be doing. And I think that also shows you sort of our culture as well and the type of people that work at YouView.
Nice. and a very lead kind of question, this one, very management kind of question. How do you manage and motivate your recruitment team, and has it affected performance and results? Clearly, results not so much based on what you told us earlier in the call.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think in terms of motivating my team, I think I'm the kind of person that, you know, I'm sort of a lead by example. I'm the kind of person that will get my hands dirty and sort of get involved in the operational stuff if I need to in the day to day. But I think I'm the, you know, I kind of, I guess, bring people on the journey with sort of my background and my skills, and I'm kind of the person that likes to collaborate and get people's ideas and experience. And I think that's how you sort of motivate your team. As I say, I'm the kind of person that I'll message the team sort of, you know, on our Slack channel with a funny Giphy or something. I mean, that's the kind of person I was am. And I think, yeah, I think being just sort of quite open and honest about the conditions that we're in as well, because, you know, no one knows sort of how things are going to change. But I think that also, I think just being like true and being open and honest as much as you can and transparent always sort of helps really. And the fact that, you know, Danny has been with me from sort of day one really. So, you know, there must be something I'm doing right, Danny.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think that transparency is a really interesting point. I think that what I've loved about, because obviously due to the fact that I head up two of the teams, I'm in quite a lucky position where I see a lot of the thing going on in the business, but I'm quite lucky also that the person I sit below, Mark, our CEO, he's very transparent about everything going on in the market, and he's become my news guru, because I get so scared about what's going on in the wider world. I try to not watch BBC News at night, but yeah, I think transparency is huge. I think that if you're not being transparent, then it puts some fear into your staff. So the more transparency you can give about what's happening, how we're going to get through this, what we're going to do this week, and what we're looking to achieve, and setting those little goals and milestones, the better.
Yeah.
Cool. So I guess we've got to the end of our half an hour. Firstly, thank you to Elouise for attending.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
And thanks to all the participants, and really good questions. So looking forward to more of these sessions in the future. Perfect. Yeah. All right. Speak to you very soon.
Thanks.
Bye, Elouise. Take care. Bye.